In the heart of the Varelia galaxy floated the grand palace of the Zinara Empire. It was a marvel of technology and beauty, with towers of crystal that reflected the light of distant stars, and halls so vast that 100 horses could gallop inside without touching the walls. But no matter how grand the palace appeared, the youngest princess, Lyra Ven, often felt a quiet emptiness inside her. The lessons of her tutors, the etiquette of royal life, and the endless ceremonies seemed to her hollow. What she truly desired was knowledge, especially knowledge of the one thing that everyone in the Empire said did not exist: humans. The Zinara Empire was proud, powerful, and ancient. They had conquered star systems, built floating cities in the skies of gas giants, and mastered technologies that allowed them to travel through wormholes. And yet humans were considered a myth, a story from the old universe told only to entertain children in the palace nurseries. Every history book dismissed them as fables, and every archive whispered that humans had vanished before the Zinara rose to power. But Lyra did not believe these claims. There was a spark in her heart, a quiet conviction that humans were not just stories. She had grown up listening to the old tales told by her grandmother, who spoke of Earth, of men and women who built ships capable of reaching the stars, and of the courage they showed when faced with impossible odds. Lyra had memorized every story, even the ones her tutors called nonsense. To her, humans were more than legends. They were a promise of something greater, something that might still exist. Her curiosity often led her to the palace archives, a labyrinth of holographic shelves and ancient memory crystals. The archive stretched for kilometers, and very few were allowed inside. But Lyra had a special pass granted only because she was a princess. Here she spent hours alone, touching holographic displays and listening to the faint hum of machines older than most planets in the Empire. One quiet morning, as twin suns rose over the crystal towers, Lyra discovered a hidden chamber she had never seen before. It was tucked beneath the main archive, behind a sliding wall that required a secret code. Her fingers trembled as she entered the code her grandmother had whispered to her long ago. The wall slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a small room filled with dust and shadows. In the center of the chamber was a pedestal holding a single holographic crystal. Lyra approached it cautiously. When she activated the crystal, a three-dimensional image flickered to life. It showed a small damaged ship, unlike anything she had ever seen. Its surface was scarred and battered, yet it floated with grace through the void. And inside the ship she saw them, humans. They were few in number, dressed in simple suits with eyes that held courage and determination. Lyra's heart raced. She had found proof. Humans were real. This cannot be, she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible in the silent chamber. They exist. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft whir of a drone entering the room. Orion, her AI guardian, appeared as a glowing figure hovering in front of her. Its voice was calm and precise as always. "Princess Lyra, you are in a restricted area," Orion said. "Access to this chamber is forbidden." "I know, Orion," Lyra replied, her eyes never leaving the holographic image. "But look at this. Humans, they were real. How could everyone say they were legends?" Orion scanned the hologram, its light shifting over the image of the ship and its passengers. Records indicate no human activity within this galaxy for over 1,000 standard cycles. The probability of them existing now is minimal. "This may be an old projection, Princess," Lyra shook her head. "No, this is real. I can feel it. This is more than a projection. Something is sending a message. I can sense it." Orion's glow flickered as if uncertain. "Your instincts are unusual, Princess. I suggest caution. If this information were discovered by the Emperor, you could face severe consequences." Lyra's heart sank at the mention of her father. The Emperor was a proud man, strict in his beliefs and utterly convinced that humans were myths. "I don't care," she said firmly. "I have to know the truth. I have to see it for myself." For the next few days, Lyra returned to the chamber whenever she could. She studied the holographic projections, piecing together the ship's design and trying to understand the humans' technology. Every time she did, she felt a connection growing, something she could not explain. It was as if the humans were calling to her across the void, asking her to find them. Then one evening, while navigating the outer archives, Lyra intercepted a faint signal. It was weak, almost imperceptible, coming from a region of space so remote that most Zinaran ships avoided it. The signal repeated a single word, in a language she barely recognized. Help. Lyra froze, her fingers gripping the console. Her mind raced. Could it be a human? She whispered. Could someone really still exist? Orion's voice was measured. The signal originates from outside the Zinaran Empire, in a sector that has been abandoned for centuries. Any ship attempting to reach it would face extreme hazards. The probability of survival is low. Lyra's eyes blazed with determination. Then I must go. I have to see it myself. I cannot ignore this. The decision was dangerous. The Emperor had forbidden any travel into that region. Ships were monitored constantly, and any unauthorized mission could be considered treason. But Lyra could not turn away. She gathered supplies, studied old star maps, and prepared her small scout ship for the journey. Orion protested, warning her again and again, but she remained resolute. The day of departure arrived. Lyra's heart pounded as she entered the cockpit, the controls humming under her touch. The twin suns of Virelia reflected in her eyes, casting a warm glow across the console. She glanced at Orion. Are you ready? She asked. I am always ready to serve, Princess, Orion replied, but you must understand the risks. There is no guarantee you will find anything at all. I understand, Lyra said, but if I don't go, I will never know the truth. Humans are out there, Orion, I can feel it. With a deep breath, she engaged the ship's engines. The palace shrank behind her as the craft lifted into the sky, leaving the crystal towers bathed in golden light. The stars stretched before her like a tapestry of possibilities, and for the first time Lyra felt truly alive. She was no longer just a princess confined to her palace. She was a seeker of truths, a traveler of the void, and perhaps a witness to the return of the most legendary species in the universe. As the scout ship sped into the dark expanse of space, Lyra felt a thrill she had never known. The journey ahead would be long and dangerous, but she no longer feared it. Somewhere in the distant reaches of the galaxy, humans awaited, real, alive, and waiting for discovery. And the young princess, who had grown up believing in myths, knew one thing with absolute certainty. Her life would never be the same again. Princess Lyra's scout ship sailed silently through the void of space, leaving the familiar world of Virelia behind. The stars stretched endlessly before her, a sparkling sea of light, each one a promise of the unknown. Her small vessel was designed for speed and maneuverability, not comfort. Yet Lyra felt a thrill she had never known, a mixture of excitement and fear. She was no longer just a princess following orders. She was an explorer on a mission that might change everything she had ever believed. Orion, her AI guardian, hovered beside her console as a glowing figure of soft blue light. Its calm voice broke the silence. Princess, we are approaching the outer sector of the abandoned system. This region has not been traveled by any Zinaran ship for centuries. Sensors indicate high levels of cosmic radiation and multiple unstable wormholes. Proceed with caution. Lyra nodded, her hands steady on the controls. I understand, Orion. I have to see this through. The signal, it could be real. It has to be real. Her voice carried determination that even her AI could not ignore. As they moved deeper into the remote system, the signal grew stronger. Lyra scanned the sensors, her eyes widening. A small object drifted near a dying star, surrounded by a halo of gas and dust. It was irregular in shape, battered and scarred. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. That's it, she whispered. That must be the source of the signal. Orion's glow pulsed as it analyzed the object. Unidentified vessel, Princess. The ship's construction is unlike any currently in the Zinaran fleet. Radiation levels are high and the hull integrity is severely compromised. There is a life form inside. Probability of survival is low. Lyra's hands tightened around the controls. Then we have to try. We can't turn back now. The scout ship approached the derelict vessel carefully, avoiding the floating debris scattered around it. The ship was small, roughly the size of Lyra's craft, but unlike any Zinaran design she had seen. Its hull was pitted and scratched, marked with what appeared to be centuries of travel and battle. Faint lights flickered on its surface, almost like a heartbeat. Orion, scan for life signs, Lyra commanded. Scanning, the AI replied. Moments later, it spoke again. One active life form detected. Vital signs are extremely weak, but there is still activity. It appears to be contained within a cryogenic pod. Lyra's breath caught. A human, she whispered. It's real. A human is inside. Carefully, she maneuvered the scout ship to dock with the old vessel. The airlock groaned as it sealed around her ship, a sound that made her chest tighten with anticipation. Orion's sensors guided her through the procedures. The boarding ramp extended, and the quiet hiss of pressurized air filled the cabin. Stepping inside, Lyra was struck by the condition of the vessel. The interior was small, almost primitive, compared to Xyneran standards, but it had a warmth that no machine could replicate. Faded murals and symbols decorated the walls, telling stories of distant worlds and forgotten battles. At the center of the main chamber stood the cryopod, a transparent cylinder containing the slumbering figure of a human man. He was tall and strong-looking, even in his frozen state with dark hair and a faint shadow of a beard. His suit was damaged but seemed built for long-term survival. Lyra approached cautiously, feeling a mixture of awe and fear. This was the being she had read about in legends, the one her grandmother had spoken of in bedtime stories. And now, he was real. Orion, she said softly. Can you wake him safely? Orion's glow flickered as it responded. Cryogenic revival is highly risky. His body may not withstand the process after so many cycles of inactivity. There is also an unknown psychological impact, Princess. He may be disoriented. I understand the risks, Lyra replied. But I have to try. If humans still exist, I cannot leave him here to die. With careful hands, she activated the pod's revival sequence. Hissing sounds filled the chamber as frost melted and machinery whirred to life. The man's eyelids fluttered, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Lyra held her breath, her heart pounding. Slowly, his eyes opened. They were dark and alert, filled with confusion and wariness. He looked around the chamber, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings, and then focused on her. Where am I? He asked in a hoarse voice, his words trembling. You're safe, Lyra said gently. You're in a ship. My name is Lyra. I'm a friend. The human blinked, trying to process her words. Friend? I don't understand. What year is it? What happened to Earth? Lyra felt a pang of sadness. She had suspected that humans were gone, that this one had been sleeping for centuries, but hearing him speak the words confirmed it. It's been a long time, she said softly. You've been asleep for over 1,000 years. The man's eyes widened, disbelief flashing across his face. 1,000 years? That's impossible. I know it's hard to understand, Lyra said, placing a hand over his. I found you because I believe humans are not just legends. And now, you're here. The human, who would later introduce himself as Commander Ethan Cole, struggled to sit upright. His body was stiff, his muscles weak, and his mind racing. Yet even in his confusion there was a spark of determination. He studied Lyra, the alien before him, with cautious curiosity. Where is everyone? He asked finally. The fleet, the colonies, the people I knew. Lyra swallowed hard. They're gone. I don't know exactly what happened, but the galaxy has changed since your time. And I want to help you understand it. Ethan's gaze softened slightly, but a shadow of sadness crossed his face. If everyone I knew is gone, then I'm alone. You're not alone now, Lyra said firmly. I'm here, and I believe there may be others. We just have to find them. Orion interjected carefully. Princess, we must consider the implications of bringing him aboard your ship. The Emperor's forces may detect unauthorized life forms. Immediate departure from this sector is advised. Lyra nodded. We have no choice. We have to leave before anyone finds us. "Ethan, you will be safe with me. I promise." Ethan nodded slowly, still disoriented but trusting her. Lyra guided him to a small seat in the cockpit while Orion managed the ship's systems. The engines roared to life, and the old vessel shook as they detached from the derelict ship. The stars streaked past them as they navigated away from the dying sun, leaving the ancient human ship behind. For the first time, Lyra had a living human beside her. She watched him carefully, fascinated by the way he adapted to the ship, his movements cautious yet purposeful. He asked endless questions about the technology, the galaxy, and her people. Lyra answered as best she could, simplifying complex Xynoran concepts into words he could understand. Hours passed, and slowly, Ethan's strength began to return. He shared fragments of his past life, stories of Earth, of humanity's wars and explorations, of the courage and determination that had made humans legendary. Lyra listened in awe, realizing that the legends she had cherished as a child were only a small glimpse of what humans had truly accomplished. By the time the scout ship reached the edge of the abandoned system, Lyra felt a deep connection forming between them. She had not only discovered the truth of humanity, but she had also found someone who could teach her more than any history book or archive ever could. Yet even as she smiled at Ethan, a shadow loomed over her thoughts. The Emperor would not approve of her actions. If they were discovered, the consequences would be severe. But for the first time, Lyra understood that some truths were worth defying orders, worth risking everything. As they sailed toward the unknown, the stars around them twinkled like distant eyes watching, waiting. Lyra felt a thrill in her heart, a mixture of fear, excitement, and hope. Somewhere out there, humans had survived, and together, she and Ethan would uncover the secrets of the galaxy, prove that legends were real, and perhaps even change the fate of their universe forever. The journey was only beginning. The scout ship glided silently through the endless stars, carrying Princess Lyra and the newly awakened human, Commander Ethan Cole. The hum of the engines was the only sound in the small cockpit, but the air between them was filled with unspoken questions. Ethan stared out at the vastness of space, trying to comprehend a galaxy that had moved on without him. Lyra, meanwhile, studied him with curiosity and a growing sense of admiration. "You must be very confused," Lyra said gently, breaking the silence. "You've been asleep for over 1,000 years. Things have changed." Ethan nodded slowly, his gaze still fixed on the stars. 1,000 years. It's hard to even imagine. Everything I knew is gone. The Earth I knew, the colonies, the fleet. All of it? All gone, Lyra confirmed softly. But there is still hope. You're alive. You're proof that humans are real. Ethan turned to her, studying her alien features, the soft shimmer of her skin, the delicate glow of her eyes, the subtle patterns that ran along her arms like natural jewelry. Despite their differences, there was a connection he could not explain. "I never thought I'd meet anyone like you," he said quietly. Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a warmth in her chest. "And I never thought I'd meet a human. You are more than I imagined. Strong, clever, brave." Ethan's lips curved into a faint smile. "We all like to think we're brave until the universe proves us wrong." For hours they spoke about everything: the galaxy, the stars, and the history of humanity. Ethan shared stories of Earth's oceans, forests, and cities. He described the courage of ordinary humans, their resilience in the face of impossible odds, and the curiosity that drove them to explore the stars. Lyra listened intently, fascinated by the tales of a species that had inspired legends throughout her empire. "Humans were incredible," Lyra whispered. "No wonder the Xynara call you legends. Your courage, your will, it's inspiring." Ethan's expression darkened slightly. "Legends? More like survivors. Humanity was never perfect. We made mistakes, we fought wars, and we hurt each other. But we always tried to rise again. That's what mattered." Lyra nodded, understanding. "I think I see now. That is why I've always believed in you, even when everyone else called you a myth. It's your spirit that makes you real." As the days passed, Lyra and Ethan began to form a rhythm aboard the small scout ship. Lyra learned to navigate through star clusters with precision, guided by Ethan's knowledge of human navigation and tactics. Ethan, in turn, studied Xynoran technology, fascinated by its elegance and efficiency. They shared quiet moments in the observation deck, watching nebulae swirl and distant suns flare. Yet, even as their bond grew, a shadow loomed over them. The Zyneron Empire had noticed the disappearance of the princess's ship. Sensors traced their path, and the Emperor had dispatched a fleet to intercept them. Lyra's heart pounded as Orion warned her of incoming vessels. Princess Zyneron warships are approaching at high speed. Evasion may be difficult, Orion said calmly. We cannot stop, Lyra replied firmly. We have to stay ahead. We cannot let them take him, or me. Ethan studied the approaching fleet, his mind racing. Your people. They're fast but predictable. If we use the asteroid field ahead, we can outmaneuver them. It's risky, but it's our best chance. Lyra's eyes lit up with determination. Then we do it. Let's go. The scout ship dove toward the dense asteroid field, engines roaring. Massive rocks tumbled through space, creating a chaotic maze. The Zyneron warships followed, their precision targeting systems locking onto the princess's ship. Lyra's hands moved quickly across the controls, weaving through the floating debris. Ethan shouted instructions, guiding her through tight spaces and blind corners. Left, no, wait, up. Now dive. The ship shook violently as it collided with a smaller asteroid, but Lyra held her grip, trusting Ethan's instincts. For the first time, she understood what it truly meant to fight alongside a human. His courage, his quick thinking, his refusal to panic. These were the traits that had made humans legendary. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the scout ship emerged from the asteroid field. Unscathed but exhausted, the Zyneron fleet, unable to follow through the dense maze, had fallen behind. Lyra and Ethan shared a moment of relief, the weight of their narrow escape sinking in. That was incredible, Lyra said, her eyes shining. You're incredible. Ethan smiled faintly, a mix of pride and fatigue. I've survived worse, but you're brave, Lyra. Braver than most I've ever met. Their bond strengthened through the ordeal. Lyra began to realize that humans were not just legends because of their technology or history. They were legends because of their spirit, their courage, and their ability to rise against impossible odds. And she saw that same spirit in Ethan, even after centuries of sleep and loss. Days turned into weeks as they traveled deeper into uncharted space. Lyra recorded every detail of their journey, every word Ethan spoke and every star system they encountered. She knew that this knowledge was precious, not just for herself but for the future of the galaxy. Humanity had been forgotten for too long, and she would not let it remain a myth. One evening, while observing a distant nebula, Ethan spoke quietly, almost to himself. I never thought I'd see the stars again like this. They've changed. And yet they're the same. Remind me, why did you believe in us? Lyra paused, looking at the colorful gas clouds swirling across the void. Because I felt it, she said simply. Even as a child, I knew humans were real. I could see the courage in your eyes before you even spoke, even before I met you. Something about humans. Your spirit. It calls across the stars. Ethan looked at her, a faint smile forming. Maybe that's why legends exist, to remind those who come after that we're worth remembering. That even if the universe forgets us, we're still alive in stories, and in hearts like yours. Lyra felt a deep warmth in her chest. She realized that this journey was about more than discovery. It was about understanding, about connection, and about honoring the past while forging the future. And with Ethan beside her, she felt that anything was possible, but danger was never far behind. Sensors detected a small probe approaching, transmitting encrypted messages from the Emperor's fleet. Lyra frowned, her fingers dancing over the controls. Orion, decrypt it, she commanded. The AI worked quickly, its glow pulsing with activity. Message intercepted. The Emperor demands the immediate return of Princess Lyra and all unauthorized life forms aboard. Non-compliance will be considered treason. Lyra's jaw tightened. He'll stop at nothing to take him. And me. Ethan placed a hand on her arm. Then we keep moving, together, together. The word resonated in Lyra's mind. Humans and aliens, legends and reality, courage and hope, all intertwined in a journey that was only beginning. She knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but she also knew that with Ethan, she could face anything. As the scout ship accelerated toward the unknown, Lyra looked out at the vast galaxy stretching before them. The stars twinkled like distant eyes, watching their every move. Somewhere far beyond the reach of even the Zyneran Empire, other humans might still survive. And with each passing light year, Lyra and Ethan moved closer to finding them, closer to proving that legends were not just stories. They were the truth waiting to be discovered. And in that truth, Lyra found her purpose. No matter the danger, no matter the obstacles, she would protect the human beside her. She would uncover the secrets of the past, face the challenges of the present, and ensure that the spirit of humanity lived on, not as a myth, but as a beacon of hope for the entire galaxy. The journey was far from over. But for the first time in her life, Princess Lyra felt certain of one thing. The universe had chosen her for this mission, and she would not fail. The distant stars stretched endlessly ahead as Princess Lyra guided the scout ship through a dense sector of the galaxy. Beside her, Commander Ethan Cole adjusted the navigation controls with precision, his human instincts honed by centuries of experience, even if that experience belonged to a long-past era. The Zyneran Empire's fleet was still on their trail, a persistent shadow in the dark. Every sensor ping reminded them of the danger, but neither Lyra nor Ethan wavered. They had come too far to turn back now. Princess, their velocity has increased, Orion warned, its blue glow pulsing anxiously. The Zyneran fleet is closing in faster than anticipated. They are coordinating their attack patterns. Lyra's jaw tightened. Then we keep moving. Ethan, can you guide us through the nebula rift ahead? Ethan studied the glowing clouds ahead. Yes, the rift is unstable, but if we navigate it carefully, it will give us cover. The Zynerans won't risk following us through the turbulence. They'll lose ships before even reaching the exit. Then it's our only chance, Lyra said firmly. She engaged the ship's thrusters and steered toward the nebula, the brilliant clouds of gas and dust stretching like a colorful storm across the darkness of space. As the scout ship entered the nebula rift, turbulence shook the vessel violently. Lights flickered and warning alarms rang as gravity distortions tugged at the hull. Lyra gripped the controls tightly, sweat forming on her brow. Hold on, she said, her voice steady despite the shaking. We're going to make it through. Ethan leaned over her console, pointing at the star charts. Turn slightly starboard. No port now, wait. Hold steady. The ship wove through the glowing clouds, twisting and turning with deadly precision. Rocks the size of mountains drifted through the rift, illuminated by the light of distant stars. One wrong move could mean instant destruction. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. Time seemed to stretch differently inside the nebula, but through coordination, courage, and sheer determination, Lyra and Ethan guided the ship to safety, emerging on the other side into the calm emptiness of open space. Behind them, the Zyneran fleet hesitated, unwilling to risk the same dangerous passage. We did it, Lyra breathed, relief flooding her chest. We're clear. For now. Ethan gave a faint smile. Not bad for a princess, he said. Lyra chuckled softly, shaking her head, but there was no time to celebrate. Sensors soon picked up an unexpected signal, an abandoned human colony on a nearby planet. Lyra's eyes lit up. Ethan, could there be survivors? Ethan studied the readings. Possibly. The colony systems are old, but some automated signals are still active. If we can reach it, we may find resources and maybe more humans. The scout ship descended toward the planet's surface. The landscape below was a mixture of crumbling buildings and overgrown forests, remnants of a civilization long forgotten. As they landed, dust and foliage rose around them, evidence of centuries of neglect. Yet the planet held a strange beauty, a quiet reminder of human ingenuity and persistence. This place is incredible, Lyra said, stepping out of the ship. Even abandoned, it feels alive. Ethan nodded, his gaze sweeping over the remnants of homes, streets, and towers. Humans left their mark everywhere. They built, they explored, they survived, even when they were pushed to the edge. They explored the colony carefully, finding storage facilities and communication hubs still functional. Ethan worked quickly to activate a long-dormant beacon, designed to send signals across the galaxy. The beacon's ancient systems roared to life, casting beams of light into space. This will alert other humans, if any still exist, Ethan explained. It's a long shot, but it's worth trying. Lyra watched him, admiration growing with each passing moment. Here was a human who had survived centuries of oblivion and still found the courage to act. And yet she also saw something more, his belief in others, in hope, and in the idea that the universe could still be changed. As the beacon pulsed, the silence was shattered by the distant hum of engines. The Zinneran fleet had located them. "They've found us," Lyra said, her voice calm but determined. "We have to prepare." Ethan assessed the situation. "We don't have their firepower, but we have knowledge of the terrain and human ingenuity. That counts for more than you think." Lyra looked at him, intrigued. "Explain." "Zinnerans rely on precision, strategy, and overwhelming force, but they underestimate unpredictability. Humans, we think differently. We improvise, we adapt, and we never give up even when all odds are against us." Lyra smiled faintly. "Then let's show them what that looks like." Using the abandoned buildings and overgrown streets as cover, Lyra and Ethan set up defensive positions. They modified the colony's old defense turrets and energy shields to create a small, yet formidable barrier. Orion assisted, optimizing the technology with Zinneran precision and Ethan's human improvisation. When the first Zinneran scout ships arrived, expecting an easy capture, they were met with a surprise. Automated turrets fired precise bursts of energy, forcing the scouts to maneuver erratically. The narrow streets and crumbling towers made pursuit difficult, slowing the Imperial forces. Lyra guided the ship from above, coordinating movements while Ethan analyzed attack patterns. Hours of tension passed, each second filled with strategy, quick thinking, and daring improvisation. Lyra felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched in many ways. But they had each other, and the courage of a human mind beside her. Finally, as the Zinneran fleet regrouped, Ethan initiated a final move. Using the colony's old satellite network, he created a false signal, mimicking their escape path. The fleet followed the decoy, leaving the colony, and Lyra and Ethan temporarily safe. Breathing heavily, Lyra lowered the ship's shields. "We did it. They're gone, for now." Ethan nodded, though exhaustion was evident on his face. "It's not over, but we've shown them that humans, and humans with friends, are never easy to defeat." Lyra looked at him, her heart filled with awe and gratitude. "I understand now why legends were made of your kind. It's not just courage. It's hope, ingenuity, and the will to keep going, even when the universe seems against you." Ethan smiled faintly. "You've learned well, Princess, and you've shown a lot of courage yourself. Together we're stronger than any legend could describe." As night fell over the abandoned colony, Lyra and Ethan sat on the steps of a ruined building, looking up at the stars. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, full of challenges they could not yet imagine. Yet in that moment they felt a spark of hope, proof that even in a universe of shadows, courage and friendship could shine brighter than any star. The beacon continued to pulse, sending signals into the darkness, carrying a message that humans were not extinct. Somewhere perhaps other humans were receiving it. Perhaps in some distant corner of the galaxy survivors were listening. Lyra knew that the journey ahead would be even harder. The Zinneran Empire would not give up, and there were dangers she had yet to face. But for the first time she felt truly ready. With Ethan beside her, with the human spirit alive and strong, she knew that they could face anything. And as the twin suns of the next system began to rise, casting light over the broken colony, Lyra whispered softly, "This is only the beginning. Legends may be old, but hope is eternal." The scout ship rested on the planet, engines silent for a moment as the stars above seemed to shine with approval. The adventure was far from over, but Lyra and Ethan had proven one undeniable truth. Humans were not just legends. They were proof that courage, determination, and hope could overcome even the darkest odds. And the galaxy would soon learn that the spirit of humanity, combined with the courage of those willing to believe, could never truly be defeated. The twin suns of the distant star system glowed warmly over the abandoned human colony. Princess Lyra stood on the observation deck of the scout ship, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Commander Ethan Cole was beside her, tending to the beacon they had activated earlier. The signal now pulsed steadily, reaching across the stars, carrying proof that humans still lived, or at least that they had once lived. But safety was fleeting. The sensors detected a massive fleet approaching, the unmistakable signature of the Zinneran Emperor's forces. They had tracked Lyra's ship and were closing in rapidly. "They're coming," Orion said calmly, though its glow flickered with tension. "The Emperor himself commands the fleet. He is not known for mercy or patience." Lyra's jaw tightened. We've come too far to turn back now. Ethan, it's time. Ethan nodded. Time for what? To show them, Lyra said firmly, what humans really are. As the Zyneran fleet arrived, their massive ships casting shadows across the planet, Lyra and Ethan prepared for confrontation. The princess coordinated defenses using the colony's ancient systems, while Ethan studied the enemy formations, anticipating their moves. Orion optimized the ship's shields and weapons, though Lyra hoped they would need them as little as possible. Then the Emperor's flagship appeared, larger and more imposing than any vessel Lyra had ever seen. Its hull gleamed like black crystal, and energy beams lined its sides like teeth. A message was transmitted across the fleet, a warning delivered in the Emperor's authoritative voice. Princess Lyra Ven, return immediately. The human aboard your ship is forbidden by Imperial decree. Failure to comply will be met with destruction. Lyra's hands clenched on the console. We won't go back, she said quietly, though her voice carried strength. Not now, not ever. Humans deserve to be remembered, to live, to exist. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Then let's make sure they understand. The galaxy will see the truth. As the Emperor's fleet advanced, Ethan took control of the ancient beacon. Using the colony's satellite network, he broadcast a message across the entire Zyneran Empire, a direct transmission from the scout ship. My name is Ethan Cole, he said, his voice steady and clear. I am a human. I have survived over 1,000 years, and though my people were forgotten, our spirit lives on. Humans are not myths. We were explorers, builders, fighters, and dreamers, and the courage of humanity cannot be destroyed, even by an empire that seeks to erase it. The message reverberated across every Zyneran channel, reaching every fleet, every city, every corner of the empire. Lyra watched the transmission, hope rising in her chest. Then the battle began, but not in the way the Emperor had expected. Instead of attacking with full force, Ethan and Lyra relied on strategy, intelligence, and cunning. The automated defenses of the colony, combined with human improvisation and Zyneran technology, created confusion and hesitation within the Emperor's fleet. Ships collided with one another. Misfired beams lit the sky and communication lines scrambled. The Zynerans, trained to follow strict orders and predictable patterns, struggled to adapt. Lyra and Ethan, unpredictable and united, used every advantage they could find. From the observation deck, Lyra watched the chaos with awe. Ethan, you really are legendary, she whispered. He smiled faintly, though his expression remained serious. Legends don't exist because of size or power. They exist because of courage, hope, and the will to never give up. That's all humans ever needed. The Emperor aboard his flagship watched the unfolding scene with disbelief. His fleet, the pride of the Zyneran Empire, was faltering against a small ship in an abandoned colony. He could not comprehend it, a human thought extinct, commanding respect, inspiring fear, and outmaneuvering centuries of Zyneran training. Lyra took a deep breath and transmitted a final message to the Emperor. Father, she said, her voice calm but filled with authority. Humans are not your enemy. They are a part of the galaxy's history, a reminder of what courage, hope, and spirit can achieve. Stop this attack. Let us prove that coexistence is stronger than fear. Silence followed. The Emperor stared at the transmission, his pride clashing with the undeniable truth in Lyra's words. He saw the beacon, the scattered ships, the proof that humans were real. And more than that, he saw his daughter, brave, defiant, and wiser than he had ever expected. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Emperor ordered his fleet to stand down. The ship ceased fire and the skies grew quiet once more. Ethan lowered his hands from the beacon controls, exhaustion and relief washing over him. We did it, he said softly. They're listening. Lyra stepped beside him, gazing at the stars. We've shown them. Humans are real. And their spirit, their legacy, will never be forgotten again. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to change. The transmission had spread beyond the Zyneran Empire, reaching distant worlds and forgotten colonies. Curiosity replaced fear. Many began to question the Emperor's teachings, realizing that the legends of humans were not just stories, they were truth. Lyra and Ethan traveled together, visiting remote systems and sharing their knowledge. They uncovered old human settlements, repaired communication networks, and broadcasted messages of hope and unity. Wherever they went, humans, or the memory of humanity, were celebrated, not feared. The Emperor, seeing his daughter's wisdom and the impact of her actions, eventually sought her counsel. Lyra spoke with him openly, sharing the stories Ethan had told her, the lessons of courage, ingenuity, and hope. Slowly, the Emperor's rigid views softened, and he began to understand that humans were not a threat. They were a lesson in perseverance, a reminder that even the smallest spark of courage could ignite change across the stars. Years later, a new alliance was formed, the Human-Xyneran Alliance. Humans and Xynerans worked together, rebuilding colonies, exploring new star systems, and sharing knowledge. Lyra became a symbol of unity, celebrated not just as a princess, but as a bridge between worlds. Ethan, once a forgotten soldier of a long-lost fleet, became a teacher, a storyteller, and a legend in his own right. He shared the lessons of humanity with every generation, reminding all that courage, hope, and the will to keep moving forward were more powerful than any weapon. One evening, as Lyra stood on the balcony of her palace on a newly restored planet, she looked up at the stars. Ethan's ship hovered above, a monument to the enduring spirit of humans. The twin suns of the system bathed the world in golden light, casting shadows that seemed to dance with the promise of new beginnings. Lyra whispered softly, almost to herself, "Legends are not always lies. Sometimes, they are just truths waiting to be found." Ethan approached, standing beside her. "And now," he said, "we make sure those truths are never forgotten." Together, they looked out at the galaxy, vast and full of possibilities. They had faced fear, danger, and disbelief. They had defied an empire, navigated the unknown, and preserved the memory of humanity. And in doing so, they had proven that courage, hope, and the human spirit could change the universe itself. As the stars twinkled above, the galaxy seemed to shine a little brighter. The story of humans, once thought lost to time, was alive, not just in memory but in every heart willing to believe. And Princess Lyra, standing beside the last human of the old age, knew that the future was theirs to shape. No matter the challenges ahead, the legacy of humanity would endure, a beacon of hope shining across the stars for all time. The universe had changed. Legends had become reality. And for the first time in centuries, humans were no longer just stories. They were a living, breathing testament to courage, resilience, and the power of hope.